What's the deal, everybody? Welcome back to the studio. Jeremy Deal here, and today we're going over a highly anticipated video, highly anticipated by me. Here we go. You ready? Dehancer for real estate. Dehancer for real estate. That's right. I've been ready to get into this video for a while, but we were waiting to announce the contest winners. And for that, let me give a big shout out to Dehancer in particular for sponsoring this contest with me and allowing me to give over $700 worth of free product to my subscribers. So remember, like and subscribe below if you want to have access to more of these free giveaways. So number one, Jesse Grubbs, I saw your video. I know you've already activated that code because you've tagged me in your new work. Looks awesome. I'm so glad it's going to use. Number two winner, Mac Brown Photography for Snake Juice in that music video. I'm really glad you got to win this one because, man, this was just your first video and it was so cool. I can't wait to see what else you produce in the future. With that being said, into the meat of the video. Dehancer for real estate. I'm going to go over the different films that I use, why that I use them, and a few scenarios in which I use them in, and I will show you direct examples of each one. Everything will be marked down in the timestamp, whatever they call it on here. For that, I'm going to need to be on the computer, so let's get into it. All right, let's dive right in, and I am already into the color tab in Davinci Resolve. So looking over here, I'm gonna show you basically how we turn all of this footage right here into this footage using Dehancer. Now you can see I've already got all of my nodes built out up at the top, all of these up here, which I will highlight all of these. But those aren't what we're concentrating on today. If you're interested in seeing how I built out my node tree and exactly what those are, make sure you pay attention for next week's drop because I'll be dropping my color corrections for real estate videos in Davinci Resolve. But this is all about the Dehancer in particular. So let's get right into it. And I'm going to talk about the settings that I use the most and why I use those settings. So everything's turned on. We're going to start with this very basic one over here. Let's get rid of this stuff. We'll make everything look a little larger for you. Sorry, I'm so used to working on a dual screen that when I have to record this on a single screen, it makes it much more difficult for me. So here we go. Let me pull up the effects over here so you can see everything that I've selected. And these are my Dehancer settings. So let me show you just the before and after with the Dehancer on and off, so you can see what it does. And the one that's on here right now is the Cinestill, which I don't use as much as I use the Ultramax right here. That's what I usually use. So you can see the difference before and after. And I'll tell you about all of I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ones that I use for specific situations. And I'll show you about all those with a few little video clips. So the first one we're talking about right now, obviously, is this main living room. And once again, I'm not going over that grading stuff, just the Dehancer stuff. And I'm going to tell you about the settings that I use the most and what they actually do. Number one, I use a CST or color space transform before I use the Dehancer node. So I don't really need any of this source stuff that's set up here. You could go about doing it that way. I'm just used to doing the CST method. And since I use multiple cameras, it just makes it easier for me. Plus, I like to keep everything on separate layers so it's easy to adjust later. So got the Dehancer, the source Rec 709, because that's what my CST is transforming everything to. And since it's going after my color space transform, that's what I'm putting it. That's just me personally. I don't know what other people are telling me to do, but that's what I'm doing. So Dehancer selected. I don't really mess with any of the defringing settings or anything like that because once again, I'm doing the color space transform. What I'm really in here for are these film effects. So I'll talk about the one I use the most first, and that is the Kodak Ultramax400. The reason I like this one is because not only does it seem to soften the shadows a little bit, and it also gives it that nice cinematic feel. For some reason, I think it's the grain pattern built in. I'm not exactly sure what it is. This is just the one that's the most pleasing to my eye personally. Another thing that it does is it mutes a lot of greens and purples, which is really good for real estate because purples, blues, greens, and yellows are always troublesome, and those are the hardest ones to adjust for. So let me go ahead and show you the before and after, just before, the Kodak 400 Ultramax. Now, if we zoom in over here, you'll really be able to tell the difference when I go off See how everything still has that kind of purple hue, a lot of purple saturation bleeding over. This just removes that. It puts a little bit of green into the image, but it also mutes the greens. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about and why this is my favorite one, because it works in every room. Here it is. Here's the bedroom before and after. So look at the bedspread in particular, how much better it looks once it starts to mute some of those purples with that Ultramax400. So we'll go on to the exteriors, and this is where it's the most important. So look at this without the Dehancer plugin, the Ultramax400, and look at it with the Ultramax400. Look at the difference in the greens right here in particular. Off. Look how they look nuclear, for lack of a better term. They're very bright and saturated and vibrant, and sure, there are ways to go about getting rid of those without this plugin, but this makes it so much easier because it's giving it that look in particular that you want. Like, see how it's softening everything and making it feel just nice and warm and inviting. Nothing's too harsh. Everything's very soft, and that's what I like. The last thing I'll show you is a drone clip using this. So that way you can easily make, as long as you're properly color grading your footage in advance, this is an easy way to make all of your footage look exactly the same, especially when it's shot with different cameras, just as I'm shooting this or GH7, nope, that's not right, GH5S, there we go. Shot the ground stuff with the GH5S, the aerials with obviously a DJI Air 2S and not a GH5S, but that way you can make everything match a little more in post. And once again, this is where you can notice the 400 Ultramax in particular. Check out this green grass without it on there, and now look at it after. Before, nuclear green, after. Look how muted those greens look. Nice, natural. That's what we're going for. So that's my absolute favorite, the Ultramax400. So let's go on to the next one that I'll use. And the rest of these are kind of like specific use situations. Not necessarily all the time. My second place is going to be the Cinestill 800T, I believe. 800T, that's what it's called. So let's go ahead and pull that out. We'll go right here to the film, click on this, and this is where they all are. And there are a whole bunch in here. Like I said, I'm going over the top ones that I personally use when I'm grading my real estate videos. So we're gonna go on up to the Cinestill 800T. Now look at this image and see if you can tell the difference before, after. Now, another reason I like this one is because it still mutes the greens. It's very important to mute these greens because especially smaller sensors, Sony and the DJIs, they seem to go very nuclear on the green. It's an issue I've had in a lot of my old videos, and once I started using Dehancer, I didn't have this problem. So once again, we're going over this Cinestill 800T, and look at the difference this makes on and off. Now, what this really does is it brings up the brightness a little, brings up the shadows a little, and desaturates a little, basically all the colors. It adds a little bit of purple in there, so just be warned about that. I've just noticed that over time, but look at the difference. It's a very clean and cool looking shot. Once again, before and after. Look at it before. Oh, those greens are horrible. Bring it back up. There we go. So we're going to go to another shot. We'll go back to this main living room, right? That was once the Ultramax400. Let's go change this once again all the way up to the 800T, and look at the difference. Here we go. I know you probably didn't see the difference right away, but we'll zoom in so we can go before. So this is with the Ultramax. See how everything, it has a tiny bit of green built into it. Everything's nice and soft. Now everything with this is still soft with the Cinestill, but it adds, instead of green, a little bit of purple. See that? If you can't see it, I'm sorry, YouTube is crushing it, but it's definitely doing that. Now, both of these look fantastic, especially compared to the original. This works really well, this Cinestill one in particular, in things like a bathroom right here. So right now we've got it on the Ultramax as before, but we're going to change it on over to the Cinestill since that's what we're talking about, the 800T. And look at before and look at after. And the reason this works really well in like bathrooms or half baths, or this is a bathroom with no window, is because this is a dark space. So it will naturally boost up those darkness a little bit. But once again, keep in mind that purple, if you're using the Ultramax everywhere else, the purple and green, those two shots are going to be instantly noticeable. So you may have to adjust that afterward. Or what I like to do really is just try and stick to one specific film type throughout the entire video. It makes it much easier. The last thing we'll talk about, here we go. We'll bring it up on this bedroom before so we can look really close at this right here, the bedspread. That's what we're going for. This is the Ultramax400, but again, switching it over to the 800T Cinestill. Now you can really tell the purples that it adds in there when we're looking at this blue room. So this is it before, naturally balanced the way it's supposed to be. And this is it with the Cinestill. See how it brings up the brightness and contrast a little bit while still keeping the shadows light and adds just a tiny bit of purple. Look right here, you can tell a whole lot. Here you can tell a lot. Once again, off and on. So that's the Cinestill. Let's move on to the next one that we're going to be talking about, the Kodak Eastman XX5222. There we go. It's a long name. Sorry, I can't look at the camera and say it. I got to look down here. So we're going to go back to this first room as before, and we're going to go from the Cinestill 800, and then we'll go to the Kodak. Where's it at? Eastman. I just passed it up. There it is. XX522. There it is. Boom. And I know what you're saying. This looks horrible, right? Well, it does look horrible, but I'll tell you where I use this the most. And this is in basements that are already kind of gray with gray flooring and they have horrible mixed lighting. This is an easy way to desaturate a lot of that mixed lighting. You can pop this on, come on over here and bring down the key for it so it lets down a little more color. So like I said, it makes everything very black and white. So just be warned of that, but it doesn't make it all the way black and white because once again, look at the green here. Like this still stays, all of this color contamination over here is gone. So it's a good way to get rid of color contamination and work from there. Or it's a good way, like I said, in those basements that are already gray and white to remove a lot of those horrible color casts that mixed lighting can provide, especially fluorescence. And I don't really have to go through all of these to show you these because this was just the one particular instance. I guess I'll show you on this bedroom just so you can check it out. It is right. Nope. There it is. Desaturated all the way. See how that looks? But it works really good, like I said, if you're looking for a starting point, and this is just kind of like one of those extra little ones that I'm talking about. So the next one we're going to talk about is going to be for those of you who like more of a poppy color. And we'll go back to the first scene as always. Let's bring this key back up by double clicking on it. And this one is going to be the Kodak Ektachrome, in particular the E100 from 2017. So here we go. It's right underneath the Eastman double, and there we go. So what this one does in particular is it actually darkens the image, adds a little more contrast, and saturates the colors. So this is one that I use sparingly, especially in real estate, but if you have a big, beautiful luxury house where all the lighting is matched nice, and you don't have a ton of mixed lighting everywhere, this is a really good one to use, and you can see the before and after. So before, after, it adds a little bit of pink just like before. A lot of these add a little bit of pink, so be warned, I pull that out a lot of times, but there it is, before and after. And let's go to something like an exterior drone shot and show you what it looks like, because this is where it does look good. Where's it at? Here we go, Kodak Ektachrome. There we go. So it brings down the exposure. So if I bring this back up to the proper exposure, now that I've added that on there, there we go. We've got a before and an after. See, brings it down nice and muted, nice and pretty. And there we go. We're back to where we were before. Now, the very last one we're going to talk about is one that I use the absolute least, but I do still use it. And once again, this is another one that's going to add a lot of pop and color contrast. And that is the Fujifilm one. And one in particular, the Fujifilm InstaX Digital Intermediate. Boom. So this one adds a lot of color, a lot of green, and you can see what it does. There it is right there. This one actually, instead of softening shadows and contrast. It enhances contrast and shadows. So if we go to something like this living room in particular, we can see more what I'm talking about. There we go. You see that color tone difference? The way it just kind of really pumps contrast. Look under the table. You can see the contrast pump right there. The coloration's a little off, but it does add a little bit of green. I use this one and the Ultramax400 together a lot because they're both really on that more green spectrum. And then I use a lot of the Kodachrome ones, the Eastman InstaX and the Ektachrome and the Cinestill. Those are all more purple hued, so I use those together. So now when I'm going through this, I'm really using the Kodak Ultramax400 the most, just as I said, and this Fuji is the one I will pair with it because it has the most similar green tone when I'm trying to do things like close-ups and stuff like that, stuff that I want to look dramatic. But once again, throughout the film, I'm really trying to keep it cohesive. So if you like soft shadows, stay with the soft shadows look. If you like contrast and punchy, stay with the contrast and punchy look. Like and subscribe down below. As I said earlier, thanks everyone who participated in the giveaway. It's nice to give back to you guys. $700 worth of product feels pretty good to give away to me. So good work, Jesse. Good work, Mac. I hope you're enjoying it. Thank you, Jesse. You've already tagged me in your latest video and it was awesome. Keep rocking and rolling. Enjoy what you're doing. Make smart business decisions. And as always, I'll catch you next time.